Here's that Zan again. Well, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's just my name at the moment. I can change it later on. I can do that. This channel will be a bit of everything, but today I want to discuss rugby league and the rugby league transfer window, which has just opened up today, November 1st, 2024. Now, as you can see, I'm wearing a Storm jersey, and I've got my Panthers mug here, so I'm obviously going to attract a lot of hate for my choice of teams, but I've got valid reasons for, picking them, so say what you will. Yeah, we can talk. Just keep things respectful in the comments. Don't go attacking me, but you can attack my teams. Some of the players might be a bit grubby, but So here we've got. So here today, I want to talk about transfers and what's happened so far in the transfer window. Obviously, yesterday we had some big news. 3 players have been released over the last 48 hours from their clubs, from big deals. All of them had a year left on their deal. We have Ben Hunt from the Dragons, Clint Gutherson from the Eels, and Josh Adokar from the Bulldogs. And they're all looking for new homes. 2 of them have realistic options for that. I don't just want to talk about them. I want to talk about some other possible transfers and such. So I'm on Zero Tackle now because that's my favourite source for this sort of thing. Zero Tackle has a lot of different stories in there. NRL.com has a lot of different, but it's harder to filter through them. So let's talk first about. Let's do a bit of a backstory on Ben Hunt. So Ben Hunt has been in the NRL for about 16 seasons now. He spent 9 of them at the Broncos before moving to the Dragons for 7 of them. He's 34, but he still has some fight left in him. I know he can play better than he has been for the Dragons. He has... I think... I see the potential in everyone. He has some serious experience that he can bring to any team. I know there are a lot of teams that are looking for his services. Neither of my top teams are really looking for him, of course, because we've got halfbacks aplenty. But let's talk about some of the teams he could end up in. Like the Titans, I don't know. The Titans, he'd be low on the pecking order because they've got so many people. They've got like AJ Brimson, Jaden Campbell, Kieran Foran, I think is still there in that halves setup. So if you think about it, you've got you can probably rule out the Titans. I think the Titans are out of the race. The Dolphins are probably the best bet. They had Anthony Milford a couple years ago, but I don't think he worked out. I can't remember. I haven't watched rugby league that diligently for a while now, but I'm getting back into it. So I was thinking, he might. I don't know if a homecoming is in order because of the whole Ezra Mam situation at the Broncos, whether they need him there, because Adam Reynolds is retiring soon. Then again, Ben Hunt's a bit older than he is, so I'm not sure if Michael Maguire wants to make that investment into him. I wouldn't mind seeing him back at the Broncos, come at full circle, play his 10th season at the club, maybe a final season at the club. We've seen it with a lot of players, Ryan Hoffman going back to the Storm for his final one, and Nathan Friend back to the Titans and so forth in recent years. Of course, Nathan Friend didn't start at the Titans, but that's beside the point. I am honestly not sure about him. He is kind of, I don't want to say old, but he's getting up there. We can't deny it, and he hasn't been in the best form, or at least in the form that he was in the mid-2010s when he was playing with the Broncos, or the late 2010s when he was helping the Dragons off to some quick-fire starts in the competitions of those years. With Ben Hunt, I think we're going to find him at the Dolphins or the Broncos. He's going to be in Brisbane, in my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you have some sort of idea as to where you might consider Ben Hunt. If you were a coach of a team, what team would that be? Would you consider going for Ben Hunt? That sort of thing. Okay, second we have Clint Gutherson. Clint Gutherson was such a beloved person at the Eels for such a long time, for so many seasons. Jason Riles, of course, has taken the reins. He wants to rebuild the club up from scratch. He wants to... he's getting rid of a few players. He's gotten rid of Regan Campbell-Gillard with a year left on his deal. He's gotten rid of Micah Sevo with a few years left on his deal. He's gotten rid of Clint Gutherson now with a few years on his deal. He's serious about this. You don't often see... this level of change in a rebuild. Of course, the Newcastle Knights, I'm from Newcastle, and I used to really have hope for the Knights, but I've lost a lot of that, frankly. I remember when I was starting to watch rugby league, they were having that huge rebuild under Nathan Brown, and they blew off all of their players following the whole Wayne Bennett administration and things like that. But back to Clint Gutherson, it's almost certain that he's going to the Dragons for 3 seasons. That'll be his third NRL club, because you may not, because many people who recently watched rugby league probably won't know this. He was at the Sea Eagles for a few seasons, but you forget about that because he became such a cult hero at Parramatta, King Gutho as they called him, and it honestly makes me feel sad thinking that he's gone now. That he was such a fixture of the Eels at the time, for a long time. Sorry, he was a winger. He was like a half, and then he settled in the fullback position. He was wonderful when he was on fire and that sort of thing. So that's Clint Gutherson. He's probably going to end up at the Eels, and I don't know what at the Dragons. Sorry, I do not know what to expect of him going forward. I figure a new system might revitalise him a little bit, because he's younger than Ben Hunt is. He's about 30, 31 or something. So this might be his last deal if it's 3 years, but I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Josh Addo-Carr is the final one now. Of course, he's been embroiled in controversy for the last month or two, ever since that roadside drug test went wrong for him. So he's now officially sacked from the Bulldogs. We saw that last night with the tribunal hearing. I was honestly surprised that they let him go. I knew they weren't going to extend him probably beyond this next season, but I thought they were going to give him one last chance to maybe push for a new deal, play a good season in 2025, considering how he helps the Bulldogs to their first final appearance in 8 years this year. So I'm surprised to see him go. I don't know where he's going to go now, because, of course, that was splashed all over the news. Tigers and Melbourne he's already been to. I don't personally think he has a place in Melbourne anymore, with Will Warbrick and Xavier Coates kind of booking those wing positions. Tigers could have him back, though. The Tigers are busy rebuilding, and I think they've got a good squad building up for next season. My mum's a Tigers fan, so she'll be happy to finally hear me admit that after they took Luai. But that's about it. Those are the three big releases. So that was it before the clock had even struck midnight last night. We already had 3 players being relieved of the last year of their deals. Okay, so let's talk about some things that haven't really happened yet. These are probably 2026 things. Quite the obvious one is at Melbourne. I'm resigned to the fact that we're probably not going to keep both Pappenhausen and Falongo, because if Ryan Pappenhausen stays, then Stuart Falongo is going to want to go somewhere else. Tyron Wishart is another one we're going to struggle to keep, as is Jonah Pezzett, but I think they want to re-sign everyone. It's a pipe dream, but I don't know, we're holding out a little bit of hope. At the Panthers, I'm not even sure which superstar we're in line to lose this year, because we've lost someone big these last 4 years. Burton in 2022, Kikau and Coruscant 2023, Crichton and Lenu in 2024, and we're set to lose Luai and Taruva in 2025. I'm not sure who the big loss is going to be for 2026. It is going to come. I'm hoping it's not Cleary. I want him to win us another 2 premierships over the next, let's say, 2 years. But I'm looking at some stories right now. Rumour that Siosiwa Takeaho might be coming back to the NRL. I think last time I checked, that was with the Bulldogs. I don't think he'd be bad at the Bulldogs. I think they could use the experience he has in their forward pack, because they've got a young forward pack, and but they've put most of the emphasis on their back line, which I think is working for them. But they need some handy forwards and that sort of thing. He was close to signing with the Canterbury Bulldogs, so he's talking with the Bulldogs. He's talking with Sydney Roosters, so he might not go back. Manly Sea Eagles too. I don't think Manly really need him. They're building to something, but with Manly it's really on and off. They just need a squad like they had in the late 2000s, early 2010s with Ballon and Watmo and Williams and Stewart, the Stewart brothers, that can perform year in, year out and get the results. Because that's what's disappointing. I've tried following Manly a few times, believe it or not, because I just like rocking the boat, going for the most, I wouldn't say hated teams, but Manly's probably up there among them. But I can't follow them because they just don't have consistency from season to season. I'll tell you what, Ben Hunt might not be a bad target for them either. Or they could try and make a last-ditch play for Clint Gutherson. There are some other players I'm eager to toss about for this sort of video. We've got Cam McInnes. We haven't really heard much about Cam McInnes, but he's been so consistent for the Sharks these last 3 seasons, and I think they want to re-sign him. He's now played 11 seasons across 3 different clubs, gone from being a hooker to a lock. I think the Sharks would be fools not to try and re-sign him. I've got a friend who goes to the Sharks, and I told him, keep McInnes. Make sure your team keeps McInnes, because he is just terrific. When he's not injured, he's just powerful, and yeah, but he has had some injuries in recent times and that sort of thing. That's all that really worries me about him. But then again, I think he's going to stay put. Trindle's another one from the Sharks, Braden Trindle. I heard the Dragons want to sign him and Daniel Atkinson, so take them both and put them into the halves combination. But with Clint Gutherson coming, will they have the cap space for that? Especially Trindle. He was great against us Panthers during that semi-final, or that preliminary final a few weeks back. Of course, they didn't get the chocolates. We got the chocolates. Yeah. But you know what? Trindle is a quality player. He actually came from the Melbourne system, if I recall, and he would be wonderful to any team that has him. He's terrific. He's sort of like, he's filled the boots of Matt Moylan and Shad Townsend, who have left the club in recent years, and he's just been super wonderful for them. So I hope the Sharks can probably keep both him and McInnes. When you think about all these off-contract players, there are a lot of good quality off-contract players this year, and a lot of them are in the back line. I don't recall that many. I'm curious. I want to look up. All the off-contract players, because I've definitely missed a few. I've only discussed a few so far. So, look at this. Like Cobbo and Stags. When it comes to the Broncos, they've just re-signed Reece Walsh, and he's here for ages now. I am not sure if they're going to be able to keep. If they're going to be able to keep both of them now, considering the salary that Walsh is on. But I hope they do, because, I don't know, Cobbo, Stags and Walsh, they're all sort of Broncos juniors. I think Walsh came from the Gold Coast initially, from Kebra Park, but I would really like to see both of them, continue on at the Broncos. They're building something special there. Of course, they fell away a little bit in 2024. They didn't make the finals at all. But if you look back to 2023, that was an amazing season on their part. They nearly beat us Panthers, but then Nathan Cleary came. So anyway, what are some other players we can talk about? Of course, there are the rumour mill. They introduced rumours to zero tackle as well, which is quite interesting. I love reading those little things. But the rumour mill is spinning when it comes to the Bulldogs, because despite the fact that they got to the finals, there's still some room for improvement. They've turned over their squad completely from 2021, almost completely at least. And there are some good players in the side that I think they should re-sign. I think Bronson Xerri is definitely the priority. I heard somewhere that Melbourne might consider signing him. I don't think they will. I figure he's going to stay with the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs threw him a line, and he just took it, and he took it so well. He played a blinder this year. Apologies for that. There's some sort of lawnmower motorbike thing outside my studio here. There are so many different players that any of your clubs might want. The Dolphins, of course, They've got Kenny Bromwich coming off contract. He's probably the biggest one, the superstar back rower. Felice Kafusi too, and Connolly Lemuelu. Those are the main ones. I just saw Mark Nichols' name down here, and I didn't realise he was still around because I haven't seen much of him ever since he was playing for the Rabbitohs between 2018 and 2022. He's now at his 4th club. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going to become of him. He's getting older. He'll be in his 14th season next year. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to be his last season or not. I just thought it would be nice to mention him because until just then, I did not know that he was still playing. I thought he'd retired this year or last. So that shows you what I know because I don't watch a whole lot of rugby league. I think it'll likely be Daly Cherry Evans' last season, unless he decides to re-sign, which he definitely could, because he's Daly Cherry Evans. He's amazing, even though he's a Queenslander, and I'm a proud New South Welshman. He could definitely re-sign if he wanted to, but I'm not sure how that's going to work going forward. He's just been the most consistent thing about the Sea Eagles the last 10 years, because ever since they began sort of falling off in the mid-2010s, he's just been there to steady the ship. Occasionally he does get things wrong, but, he's human after all, so... I like what the Warriors have done too, because they are shoring up their future. They're re-signing all of their fringe players. They've almost got a complete squad. They've almost completed their squad for this year. And they've already got about 15 players signed for 2026. That's a lot considering how far away from that season we are. I think they're going to keep re-signing their players. Consistency is key. I think they just had an off year. Andrew Webster will probably get it right again in 2025. That's my bold prediction. If not top 4, the Warriors will certainly be pushing for the 8, like they always are. They don't always get there, but I have a feeling that they're going to be back next year, back bigger, better, stronger, you name it. And the Newcastle Knights, of course, they're shoring up their own future. Few school friends of mine are actually in the Newcastle Knights system. I'm not going to name names for privacy reasons, of course, but they are wonderful people, and I think they're going to be wonderful players, servants for the club, because despite me not supporting them as much as I used to, Panthers and Storm, I still like them. I still think that I still support them against a lot of other teams because they're my local club, and I've stood by them from afar for a few years, but it's hard, of course, with all of the constant rebuilding and the constant reshuffling. I think the player management's a problem. That's not a reflection on the players they have now. I think they're doing a wonderful thing. I think they've got a wonderful squad at the moment, and they're building something wonderful. If they can just keep their juniors, because Newcastle has probably an even wider catchment area than Penrith. I think I read somewhere that it's like from the Central Coast all the way up to the mid-north coast, or the far north coast. So anyone from like Woyerboy to Byron Bay, of course some of those lower players go to the Roosters, but you can get a bunch of those coastal players. I bet you can find a full 17 full of talented juniors like that, breed them, keep them for a few years, then make some more once they inevitably leave for more clubs. There's definitely talent there. I know some of them personally, and I believe Newcastle has a very strong catchment area. They just need to learn how to manage it. So yeah, it's and of course we were talking about the Eels earlier, off-contract players. Bryce Cartwright, I'm not sure about him. He's played at the... I think if he stays at the Eels for this season, he will have played at the Parramatta Eels the longest out of any of his 3 clubs. That's longer than he was at Penrith, and that was his junior club. If we're talking first grade only, because he played 4 first grade seasons at Penrith, 3 first grade seasons at the Titans, 2.5 basically, and 4 seasons at the Eels. I'm not sure how long he has left. I think he's been consistent though. I'd be surprised if they didn't at least offer him something for 2026. But that all depends on how he plays this year. He might even retire on his own. Hope not though. I still have a lot of respect for him as a Penrith junior. So as for us Panthers, I think the biggest risk, I think person we have to lose, looking at that contract list, we've got a few. We've got Luke Summerton, of course. He's really come into his own. Brad Schneider as well, and Dane Laurie has of course come back this year from the Tigers. I think Maverick Geyer is our priority. We need to keep him. If we can keep him, then we've just shored up another piece of the puzzle for the future. Because Jerome Luai's gone. He's a fight. Like, Maverick Geyer is a good 5'8". He's a good utility player. And there's going to be a huge power vacuum for that number 6 jersey, I'm sure. And Ivan Cleary is going to be trying out some players over the summer. But I think they need to shore up Maverick Geyer. I think he's the best choice going forward. And when it comes to like some of the other clubs, I think for the Rabbitohs, Tyrone Munro, I saw a story about him. They want to keep him. Cody Walker, I'm not sure how long he's got because he's 35 next year. But then again, he didn't debut until late. He could go on playing till he's past 40. I have a feeling they're gonna want to keep him. He's still in okay form. Of course, the Rabbitohs have sort of dropped off for the last few years. That seems to happen when you get beaten by Penrith in the grand final. Like, the Rabbitohs have struggled the last few years. That might also be because Wayne Bennett left. Parramatta Eels have struggled the last couple of years. Broncos struggled this year. Storm are probably going to struggle next year, if I'm honest. You've got the Dragons. They've got a lot of players off contracts. I think Kyle Flanagan is the one they're going to really focus on first. There are a few others they're going to want to keep too. And if they can get Tyron Wishart from the Storm, he might be the starting 5'8" to partner Kyle Flanagan. To have those two play together, that'd be a lethal combination. I'd honestly, as much as I want him to stay at the Storm, which he probably will, according to the rumour mill, I figure if he has to go anywhere, I'd like to see him go back to his junior club, the Dragons. I remember the story when we first signed him 3.5 years ago in July 2021. I was curious about him. I didn't know that much about him, except that he and Rod Wishart were related, by father through son. He has just become the utility for the Storm. He wants to stay, but I don't think he can be offered the playing time with Munster and Hughes in our like 5'8" position, and then Jonah Pezzett knocking down the door. He might leave too. Keegan Russell Smith is signed for another couple seasons, so we will just see how it happens. That's probably one of the more interesting stories, is just the pecking orders of these teams. There is a bit of a halves merry-go-round that's happening at the moment in the NRL, and I'm curious about it, obviously. Finally, the Tigers. I think they need to focus on juniors. I don't think any of these off-contract players, not even Adam Dewey, are really the future of the club. I don't think that's what you really want to bet your money on. Like, having that when you've got Lachlan Galvin and you've got some of the younger players in the team, I have a feeling that that you really, don't need all of these former players. I want to see them become sort of like a rival to Penrith in terms of juniors, because they have a nursery. It's not as big. It's nowhere near as big. But the Tigers have such a talented junior nursery at the moment. We've seen it with Lachlan Galvin. I've seen it in some of their other players. I haven't watched that many Tigers games, so forgive me for not being able to name too many. But I figure they need to focus all of their energy. All of these clubs need to focus their energy on juniors. The Gold Coast Titans, they have an incredibly small junior region, yet they have bled about 6 local juniors, and they're in the past couple of years, and they're intent on keeping them. I think they're gonna go to the top next year when Tino Fasulimanao is back and everything. By the way, those rumours about the Storm getting him back, I don't think we'd like him back, but I don't think we need him back and I think the Titans are a much better fit for him. He's a born leader, and he'd struggle for leadership opportunities at the Storm. I figure he's right where he is. Not that I don't want him back, but I figure he is amazing in a Titans jersey. So yeah, that's about it. Those personal takes, I figure we're about to see a changing of the guard in terms of the NRL. There are a lot of older players who are off contract. I can't imagine that a lot of them are going to play for very long. I figure we're about to see an enormous sort of explosion of young talent across the NRL. Look at the Warriors; they've got some serious juniors as well. They are amazing. They've been amazing at producing some of them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the junior systems have to offer. So anyway, that's probably today's video. My name has been Xander, and I look forward to seeing you for another video. I'll probably aim to make a video every couple of days, boost the algorithm a little. But yeah, that is, and I'll try and stop. I don't want it to be just a rugby league channel. There are so many different topics I want to discuss. There's music, there's all sorts of things that I'm very polymathic. My brain is not polymathic in a practical way. I can barely handle so many things without getting overwhelmed. But I want to switch things up occasionally. We'll do videos on different things. I might even add new channels for specific topics. But yeah, so my name has been Xander, and I thank you for watching. I hope you can find it in your heart to like and subscribe, and yeah, let me know in the comments if there's something you want me to do a video on, or if there's like some sort of thing. Remember, always feel free to message me. Please be kind and respectful in the comments. But otherwise, just have a really, really good day, and I'll see you whenever there's something more to tell. Bye now.